Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again today. We are here on Zoom with Jenna Lalani. She is a family and estates lawyer practicing here in the Lower Mainland. So welcome, Jenna. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
On this beautiful sunny Vancouver day, which is why I put my happy background on. But we wanted to invite you to come and speak to obviously viewers that are gonna land on this video about cohabitation and marriage agreements. So as a family law lawyer, you're well versed in these documents, and I always speak to them as a piece of my mortgage advice or planning process, but quite often people sort of pass by it thinking, oh, I'll deal with that later. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions about them, and I'm going to start with asking you, so the professional in this area, why a cohabitation and or marriage agreement is important.
Thanks. That's, it's a question that not a lot of people think about or, shed light to. It's something that people pass over, but it's really important. And I generally like to look at it as a type of insurance. So, I say people get business insurance, they have house insurance, they have car insurance, and it's obviously looking to the what if this happens. And yes, we don't like to look at anything bad happening in our relationship, but what if something happens? What if something goes wrong? How is your assets or your property, how are they protected? And so the best way to protect what you have and what you're bringing into the relationship and, the equity that can grow during your relationship, and the best way to protect it is through an agreement. So you enter a business with a partner and you have an agreement in place. Why? Because you're trying to make sure that everything is done properly. You're wanting to make sure that you have a way out, or if something goes wrong in any way, maybe not in the relationship, but with the property or going into debt or something along those lines, but you're protected. And so that's the most important thing, is we're just trying to protect you in any way possible.
I always think it's funny that in business partnership you have an agreement, but in love partnership you may not. And it's hard when people are obviously coming together, say buying a home, they're super happy in love, and you're like, well, let's plan for when this falls apart. So it's a hard conversation to have.
Let's cloud everything that's going on in your head and let's talk business.
So what if people are already living together, and obviously this has come up during COVID quite a bit, can they have an agreement that starts from today forward or even looking back?
Of course, so you can get this agreement at any point in time into your relationship. So, I always say it's great to do it at the beginning. Both of you are on the same page. You're starting it together, and it's in place while you live together. Some people, even with a marriage agreement, get it afterwards. They didn't have time before, but let's draw attention to it. Let's look at it now. Some people living together, not married, and have already reached that spousal relationship after 2 years. It's not too late. So 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, even 10 years down the line, I've had clients come to me and say, we're starting to see some problems. We're starting to see some arguments. Let's put an agreement in place. That way, if anything happens, if we were to separate, we're both in the mind space that we want to be at right now to put this into place. We both can agree that this is what would happen if we would separate. It's an agreement. You get to decide the terms. I mean, the both of you can sit down and say, look, if something were to happen, then this, or if something were to happen, then we just go our separate ways. It's up to you as to how to, format that agreement. Mm-hmm. I'm just the writer.
But you're also there to offer advice on how normally, or in a lot of cases, assets would flow, and offer that advice as well.
Of course. And so generally when you're separating, assets can be 50-50 split. And sometimes it could be a little bit more than a 50-50 split when you're counting in other factors like spousal support or, unequal division of property can add can add some stress into it. But I would like to give my best advice. And so going forward, coming up with something that's fair to both parties. Yes, I can only act for one party, but something that works, something that, you know, it's not going to cause problems. It's going to be what's best for you, but also what's best for the both of you in the long run. And I've had many clients who are, you know, very happy. The other side has been very happy and say, you know what, this is exactly what I wanted in place. Like, you know, you're not my lawyer, and but this was great. And they go to another lawyer and get advice, and the other lawyer is able to say, this was great. Like, you two, I haven't had problems. You're able to really put what you want, and I'm giving you the best advice there is to get that done.
It obviously saves a lot of time and money if having an agreement in place if you were to separate and divorce later on. But it seems that when it comes up in conversation, cost is a barrier to having them implemented. So what would you say around that?
So of course, it's a huge thinking roadblock. You know, people say, I just can't afford it. I don't have time for it. We're living together. We're happy. I don't need to worry about it. And so when I talk to people, you know, I offer an initial complimentary consultation. I like to talk to people and say, look, this is what you need to be thinking about. And 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, if something were to happen and you were to separate, you could be spending, you know, well over $10,000, $20,000 on a litigated matter. So something going to court or mediation or something with a lawyer, and it's totally contested, which means that there's an argument between both parties. Whereas if you had this initial agreement in place, that initial cost, if you had it in place, then you're saving that tens and $20,000 that you would normally spend on that divorce or on that separation or mediation if you weren't married, to get that final result. So yes, there's an initial cost, of course, but the risk of a higher cost.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been through my own divorce, so I can say hands down, it's cheaper to get the cohabitation agreement in place prior. So. But I'm sure we've triggered some feelings in some people who are potentially watching today. And if they are looking to reach out, you've mentioned that you do free consultation.
Yes, I do. I'm happy to talk to anybody. Some people just have questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
Awesome. Okay, so we can include your contact information, phone and email, in the show notes today. But, you know, we would like to say to anyone watching, if you have any questions around these types of legal matters, as I say in all of my videos, please do reach out, connect with a professional in a specific area as it relates to advice. I know temptation is to ask your friend, your family member that's been through something similar.
Look on the internet, Google away, but I'm happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, reach out to Jenna. And Jenna, anything else anyone should know before we close up today?
It's never too late to get this agreement, and you know, it's the best source of insurance. I think it's really important, and I think people need to realize that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to talk to you.
Bye for now.